Hey folks, I feel as though there's been a lot of talk recently about a certain Zelda game being set and due for a full remake. Whilst it would be really cool to see a fan favourite game get another full remake, we are talking about Ocarina of Time, of course. There's another Zelda game that I personally feel not only needs a full remake more, but also rightfully deserves to be fully remade even more. In my opinion, this other game is the only remake the Legend of Zelda series needs right now, and it's not Ocarina of Time. Be sure to go and grab yourself a scrumptious snack and drink for the video, folks. Send them my way via the social links below for a chance to be featured right here. Subscribe if you aren't already, and drop a cheeky wee like down below. And let's get right into this one. What game screams Zelda more than any other? Twilight Princess? Breath of the Wild? A Link to the Past? No. The game I'm thinking about is The Legend of Zelda. Yeah. The very first game in the series before those subtitles were added. Released back in 1986 on the Nintendo Entertainment System, this is where it all started. The idea and identity was the same back then, only it had to be portrayed in an 8-bit format. It's a classic game, and one that I feel every Zelda fan should experience. The only problem is, it's a wee bit cryptic at the best of times, and honestly quite challenging without the help of a manual. For some. Including me. I'm not gonna act like I could beat the game without one. A solution to this challenge could be a full remake of the game, modernizing the original Zelda into a cool, revamped telling of the original tale. Now, you could argue that there's other games that could receive this treatment. The Oracle games could do with this, as could Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks, and as many fans have been talking about, Ocarina of Time as well. However, let me make an argument as to why the original Zelda game should take priority here. First and foremost, if Zelda 1 was to be remade, what sort of size and look would it take on? Because there's two ways this could go, and I think it's important to be able to visualize what we're talking about here. Either it'd take on a similar look and size to Echoes of Wisdom, or a much larger size and in the style of Breath of the Wild. Essentially, would the remake be in full 3D or top-down? These are the two main styles Zelda games are made in, and the reason I picked Breath of the Wild style as the example here is because The Legend of Zelda and Breath of the Wild are quite similar. They're both fully open-world Zelda games, and Breath of the Wild actually took on a lot of inspiration from the original title. In some ways, it was a spiritual modernization of the original game and its vision. Just with its own story, characters, lore, enemies, dungeons, and, just small things like that. If I had to pick between the two styles to take this remake on, I'd go for the top-down remake, and there's a few reasons for that which we'll get into later. So our Zelda 1 remake will be top-down, and work with the same engine and style of Echoes of Wisdom. Now, this is just for the base work. It wouldn't actually look like Echoes of Wisdom 1 for 1. The actual colour palette, textures, and character designs would obviously be suited to the style of the first Zelda game. With that established, what are some key reasons that this should be our next remake? One of the Zelda series' most important aspects is puzzles. Progression in Zelda games involves a lot of puzzles and problem solving, thinking outside of the box and how to use your unique set of items. The first Zelda game was no different, and has the very first puzzles in the series, some of which returned in later games, often modernised or changed a little, but the foundations were the same. Now, some puzzles and challenges in this game are insanely cryptic. For example, there are bombable walls hidden across Hyrule for you to find. The catch is finding them. There were no hints or little details to indicate where these were, unlike in later games where you'd have a wee hint such as a crack in the wall, indicating a weak point. In this game, you just had to trial and error bombing random walls. Fixing problems like this would be one big benefit of a full remake. The graphics on today's games can include things like visual hints. I think it would be really cool to bring these classic puzzles and challenges to the modern day, especially for those who haven't played the first game. There's some great stuff in here, it's just a little outdated. Another big part of the game that I really believe would be a hit with today's players is the dungeons and enemies. Zelda 1 has some of the coolest enemies in the Zelda series, many of which are where some of our favourite enemies in more modern games originate from. You've got Wizrobes, Lynels, Darknuts, Dodongos, Gibdo, Gleeok, Goma, Keese, Stalfos, and who can forget the Forbidden Zelda enemy, Likes. The dungeons themselves are alright as well, but they could definitely be improved and given more individuality in a remake. For the time, these were solid challenges. The main improvement to be made in my opinion is, like I said, give them more individuality, such as them having different music, as back in 1986 each dungeon featured the same track. A remake would also allow Nintendo to give the dungeons different visual looks, maybe even adding in elemental aspects, as they all look very similar. A remake presents an opportunity to develop the dungeons further, bringing the original vision to a modern setting. There was only so much that could be done back in 1986, and I think Nintendo did a great job, but those limitations have opened up massively since. The final key factor that I feel would make remaking this game worth it is the lore and story. Big surprise that I'm bringing up lore and story. I mean, half my channel is lore videos. Zelda 1 has an incredible story. However, it wasn't presented all that much in the game itself. Most of the backstory and present events were told through the game's manual, which players would read as they play. There was obviously some stuff in the game, but it wasn't much. There's also a lot of lore that gets missed because of how basic the game itself was back at this time. I did a little video a while back talking about the unseen lore of the classic Zelda games. If you want a more in-depth look at the older games' stories and lore, then be sure to check that video out later. I'll link it below. The point here is, there's a genuinely great story to tell with the original Zelda. A full remake would allow for this to happen within the game itself, which I believe would make the experience feel like a whole new game to some degree. Dialogue could be added into the game through a variety of characters to tell the story, which was previously in a manual. It could even be changed and or developed a little, adding in new stuff that adds the original vision. I have a lot of belief in this idea, and genuinely feel the story of this game deserves a modern retelling. This is the original Legend of Zelda. It's quite literally, hero slays Ganon and saves the princess. There's so much to work with here, and I really hope that we can see this in a modernized way. I feel as though I've let my feelings be known as to why I feel this game deserves a remake. But why pick this over the already loved and fan favourite Ocarina of Time? Well, for starters, Ocarina of Time already has had a remake. On the Nintendo 3DS, we have a remade version of the game already. The game can be played on several systems as well, and the original is available on the Switch, so it's not an inaccessible game by any means. The Legend of Zelda is just as accessible, but it's a very tricky game to play without the help of a manual, or not ideal to play anyway. It's a terrific game and I already enjoy it as is, but there's so much potential to share the original story with so many newer fans, as well as fans who have just never experienced it before. Some bonus reasons that I'd like to bring up as well are, if this game was to be remade in that Echoes of Wisdom style, at least to base the game off, we could see it being developed by Grezzo, the team who worked on Echoes of Wisdom and other smaller Zelda projects alongside Nintendo. This is whilst the main team works on the mainline Zelda games. There's also the fact that this coming February will be the Zelda series' 40th anniversary. They'll surely want to have something to show off in celebration of this milestone, and what better than to remake the first ever game? Who knows, if it slaps the way I feel it would, maybe this would start a trend and Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link would receive a remake further down the line, and then A Link to the Past. But for now, we must wait. The original Zelda, in my opinion, has a brilliant wee story, but a lot of it isn't truly brought to light due to how limiting video game production was back then. The whole story isn't actually in the game. There's a really rich story that tells the very first tale of this adventure, but back in the day, that story was mostly told through a manual and other external sources. If the game was to be fully remade, all of that could actually be rebuilt and included in the game itself, bringing the dungeons to life, showing off the unique cast of enemies, and telling the story that started it all in a modern way. I'd also like to clarify this. Nothing I'm saying in this video is to bash the original Zelda game. I have infinite love and respect for it. This is where it all started. And without this basic, cryptic adventure across Hyrule, none of the other games we know and love would exist. I'm also not here to say that remakes of any other game wouldn't be great. I'm a Zelda fan. Of course I'd love an Ocarina of Time or Phantom Hourglass full remake, whatever game it may be. But the one I feel deserves it the most right now, with the 40th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda coming up, is The Legend of Zelda. Thanks a ton for watching, folks. If you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe for lots more fabulous Zelda content coming your way. A very special thank you goes to my channel supporters across YouTube memberships and Patreon. These cool people on screen right now have been so kind to financially support the creation of my videos, and that support does not go unnoticed. So, thank you. If you'd be interested in joining them, then check out the supporting links down in the description. Also down there are links to my socials and Discord server if you'd like to keep up to date with me. Thanks again for watching, folks. I hope you have a great rest of your day or night, and until the next time, I've been Hyrule Gamer.